I have been trying to decide whether or not to have this conversation on YouTube, but honestly, it's a conversation that's pretty universal and is something that I'm very, very short on, and something that is I guess understood by I think quite a few female presenting people out there who most some of which will probably understand where I'm coming from, and also some of which that will go, oh, but it's such a special thing to have in your life. I'm gonna make it very clear now. I am not here to be saying anything negative about the topic of having children. I'm not here to discourage anyone. I'm not here to point out the reasonings that I have for not having kids as things that people should consider when having children, because there's no right or wrong when it comes to having kids. I have a lot of friends who have kids. I also have a lot of friends that don't want kids and aren't going to have kids and do not have kids. I am one of those people who is not right now planning on having any children. I have so many mental health issues. And that's not saying that people with mental health issues can't have children. My mum has been a fantastic mother my entire life. She has been the best mum, and she's got a bunch of things up in the brain. She has bad brain days, bad brain weeks. She has down times, and that's okay. People with mental health can have children because they're humans. They can be very good parents. My mum, again, was and is to this day a fantastic mother, and has always been a fantastic mother, and has always supported me and taken care of me and just been generally a brilliant parent. I just have all these mental problems and trauma, and I went through a lot of parentification growing up, and kind of became like a second parent to my younger siblings. Me not talking to my younger siblings has nothing to do with how I raised them. I did not raise them to write off family, but they chose that, and that's okay. There was a situation that I won't go into that made that happen, and I no longer talk to that side of my family. I don't talk to my stepmother. I don't talk to my biological sperm donor. I don't talk to either of my younger siblings. I wish them well. I hope they have a good life, but that's kind of about as far as I go with affection towards them. I feel nothing really for them. And that's not me being mean. It's more, there's a lot of history and a lot of water under the bridge with all of them. That is the only one that I have never had any kind of issue with and would happily open my arms to is my youngest sibling. I spent most of my life bringing up my two siblings, and it was not a great childhood to have. And because of that, I am kind of allergic to having children. I raised two for 10 years of my life. I spent a lot of my young adult years, late teens, early 20s, just refuting kids. I basically was like, no, I do not want children. I am not interested. I do not want to go near that. That is not for me. Thank you very much. Goodbye. That is the extent of the kids conversation. Me and my partner have had many conversations about having children. There was a good couple of years of being with my partner where I said to him, yeah, I'd like to have kids. I'd love to have kids with you. That kind of thing. And it's only been in the past few months that I have just made it very clear that I am not interested in bearing children myself. If at any point I wanted children in my life, adoption exists, surrogacy exists. I'm not interested in growing children inside of myself. I have a lot of phobias, and a couple of them happen during a pregnancy, and I don't really want to go through that. I have a lineage where my grandma, my nana, my nanny, who birthed my mother, she had no morning sickness or anything. My mum also didn't have any morning sickness, but knowing my luck, I would. And I have a emetophobia, and I'm not really interested in that happening, really. To me, during a pregnancy. Thank you very much. So that's one of the reasons why I wouldn't be pregnant, but also I just don't want children. It's just simply, I don't want kids. I shouldn't have to give reasons as to why I don't want kids, but there are specific reasons as to why. Pregnancy being one of them. I know adoption exists. I know surrogacy exists. If at any point I would like to have children running around my house, then I will adopt, or I will get a surrogate, or find a surrogate. Not get a surrogate because you can't buy a surrogate, but I will find somebody to birth a child for me if I really, really want children. I don't. I do not. Not a thing that I'm interested in, but it is a conversation that me and my partner have had quite a lot. I'm not going to go into the specifics, but he does want children. And it's not that it's a deal breaker if we don't. It's more just like he would like to carry on the family kind of lineage, I guess, or for his family name. He wants to carry that on with kids, like future kids and all that kind of stuff. I'm not interested. And I've made it very clear that I am not going to be changing my mind anytime soon. I see a therapist regularly. It's not that I don't take care of my mental health. As I said earlier on in the year, my mental health is at the healthiest it's ever been since I was 15 years old. And it's nothing to do with me having mental breakdowns at least once a year, because it does happen. Last year was a consistent mental breakdown, but it kind of just really kind of reiterated to me what kind of mother I would be, because I already know what kind of mum I'd be. I would not be the greatest. I would not be attentive. And if I was attentive, I'd be overly attentive. But then I also would be really worried about how I am acting around my children. So I would avoid talking or being near them or touching them. In my mind, here's how I would be as a mum. If I was to get pregnant, become with child, I would carry the child through the 9-month wait, have the kid, take care of the child for the first few months that it needs me, wait until it's weaned onto food, and then after that I would take care of their basic needs. I wouldn't really be attentive in the way of I'd play with them, I would feed them, I would make sure that they are fed, dressed, they have a roof over their head, that they have the creative space to be creative, but I wouldn't be around much with them. I wouldn't touch them or hug them or do anything that would be classed as affection towards my child. Not because I wouldn't love them, because they would be my child. Of course I'd love them. There'd be no issue there. There is no issue with me not whether or not I love them. That's not the issue. The issue is that because of how I have been brought up and because of my experiences growing up, which I'm sure I'll get into at some point, I have had a lot of not great experiences growing up as a woman. Quite honestly, if you had watched my old channel a few years ago, I made a video on the Me Too movement because I've been there, and it was from somebody that was very close to my family, and it was not great, essentially. And that experience has definitely soured my ability in my head to take care of my children in a way where they feel comfortable with me. I don't want to say something or do something or make them feel uncomfortable in any way. And I know that it's so complicated because I know that I wouldn't do anything to my children. I know I wouldn't. I'm not an evil human. I'm not evil, and I don't have that mentality that those kind of people do. I don't. I mean, I know I don't. But here's an example. There was a kid the other day. Well, there's a couple of examples. There was a kid the other day in the local bar/coffee shop, and we were there. Me and my mum were there having a couple of cokes. We were just kind of sitting, chilling. This little girl ran up to her dad and asked him to turn on the light because the light switch was too high. It was like a pulley, but it was like high up, so little ones can't really reach it. And he was ignoring her. He was on his phone. He wasn't really paying attention, which was very dumb of him. And my mum pointed out and was like, "Oh, there's a little girl who's trying to turn on the light switch in the bathroom." I made it so abundantly clear in my body language that I did not want to touch or go near this child, this poor little girl who just wanted to turn on a light. I turned on the light for her. I said, there you go, darling, in you go. And didn't, like, I was like far away from her. I stayed so far away, but not because I'd have done anything, not because there would have been anything there. Like, I just wouldn't have done anything, obviously, to her. But it was a very anxious and unnecessary, but in my brain necessary, to be like, I don't want this kid to ever feel the way that I felt growing up, which was uncomfortable and not understanding really what's happening, but also just feeling violated. I didn't want to get too close into her space. Personal space for me, since I was like 15, has always been just so important to me. People walking behind me makes me nervous. I get uncomfortable. My shoulders go up. My mum has even noticed, because we talk about this quite a lot, that I can't sit back and relax. I have never in a million years been able to sit back and relax on like a chair or a sofa, because I'm always sat up waiting for somebody to ask me to do something. Growing up in the household that I did, there was a lot of, I didn't sit down and relax until the people that I lived with were out of the house. I would be upstairs in my room, the only place that I could relax, on my bed. I couldn't relax in the living room. I couldn't sit down on a sofa. I couldn't sit down on a chair. I couldn't just relax. Whenever I sit somewhere, my mum's noticed this. I don't sit back and relax. Not unless I'm tired and I'm like falling asleep, or I feel comfortable in your presence. That's when it's like, okay, I can relax now, because they're not going to stand up and be like, what are you sitting down for? Like, I need help. What are you doing? You shouldn't be relaxing right now. You should be coming and helping me. That kind of stuff. Christmases were horrible because it would just be all day during Christmas. She'd just come into the living room and she'd just look at me and go, you're meant to be helping me in the kitchen. Why are you sitting down? When I'd been doing stuff all morning. I'd been clearing up after the kids had opened their morning presents from their stockings. I would be tidying the living room from the morning's opening of presents, and then I'd go and set the table for the Christmas dinner, which, if you live in a British or even American, to be fair, traditional family who's very into Christmas and very, very makes it a big deal in their household, you'll know that when you set a table for Christmas dinner in that kind of household, you know for a fact that it's not just going to be a few placemats and some silverware. It's going to be a few placemats, some silverware, maybe a cheese board on the side, on like a side table somewhere. There's going to be like decorations on the table with Christmas placemats and Christmas plates and Christmas cutlery and all these candles in the middle, and like a little like confetti on the table, a runner in the middle to put the food on, mats in the middle to put the food plates on, and like crackers and all sorts of decorations on the table, and making sure that the ambiance is correct and enough places are set for the family, because your grandparents are there as well, so you have to set enough places, and you have to squeeze an extra chair at the table and do an extra like place on the table for your grandparents or whoever's there visiting for the Christmas holidays. Like, there's a lot that goes on during Christmas, and also entertaining the children while cooking is going on. I would entertain, then go cook, and have to split my time between socializing with my grandparents, helping in the kitchen, and taking care of the kids because the parents were busy in the kitchen. It's chaos at that time of year. But that was like all year round, except without all the Christmas decorations and shit. All year round, I would sit down for like 5 minutes. They'd come through the door and I'd immediately stand back up and pretend I was doing something. Because I knew for a fact that if I was sitting on the sofa in the lounge, I immediately would be asked, why aren't you doing anything? I asked you to do these things. Have you done these things yet? Are you going to do these things? When are you going to do these things? Can you do these things right now, please? Have you mopped the floor? Have you taken the rubbish out from the bin? Have you emptied all the bins in the house? Have you cleaned the bathroom? Have you cleaned the kitchen? Have you cleaned your room? Have you cleaned our room? Have you cleaned the kids' room? Have you hoovered downstairs and upstairs and on the stairs and in your rooms? All of these questions would be asked as soon as they came through the door. And then they'd be like, hey, so we're going out tonight, which they would at least 2 to 3 times a week. Can you take care of the kids, please? And this was after my brother had moved out. My brother moved out just after he finished one college, or finished university. He moved out, moved in with my mum, and just kind of, did as older siblings do, which is move out. The lucky bastard. Moved out before I did. So this was after he moved out. When my brother still lived in the same house as I did, he would share the load and we'd both do it, which meant that it was done in half the time. But then as soon as he moved out, it was my turn to just do it all on my own. So I'd then have to think about the fact that I was then going to be spending my night getting the kids dinner, making sure that they finished their programs nice and on time, made sure they had a bath or a shower, made sure they brushed their teeth, put them in their pajamas, read them their bedtime story, wait for them to fall asleep because the little one, the youngest, has autism and she wouldn't let me leave the room until she was asleep. Sing a lullaby to make sure she was asleep. And then, after they were asleep, which took long enough as it is, because you know what kids are like, they run around, they don't want to get in their pajamas, they go away from you and you have to run after them to get them into their pajamas, that kind of shit. I had to do that because my younger siblings just didn't want to listen, which was normal for kids. After doing that and making sure they're asleep, making sure that you have an ear out just in case the youngest one wakes up and sees you're not there, you then have to fill the dishwasher with the dishes that the stepmother would allow to go into the dishwasher and then do the washing up of the dishes that she would not allow to go into the dishwasher, which was too many. It was ridiculous. And then once you've done that, then if you're lucky, if they're not home yet, you can go and take a shower and go to bed. But if they get home while you're doing the washing up, no. They're like, can you also clean the cooker, wipe down all the sides, make sure that the breadboard is clean, make sure that everything's dried up from the from the dish rack, and put them all away, and make sure that the surfaces are clean, and turn the dishwasher on for the next morning. And if the dishwasher finishes before you've finished everything, put everything away from the dishwasher. I essentially already had to run a household from the age of around about 15 until I moved out at 20 years old. I spent majority of my puberty taking care of a household and taking care of 2 kids because the parents, to be honest, could not be bothered. How I explain it to people, if I don't want to go into the full explanation of why I don't want to have kids, I literally say, I've done my time. I spent majority of my younger years taking care of children. I knew how to make a bottle by the age of 16. I knew how to change nappies by the age of 16. I knew how to put a baby in a pram, put a baby in a car seat. I knew how to clean and sterilize bottles. I knew how to make up formula if needed. I knew what temperature to make a baby's bath. I knew how to draw a baby's bath. I already knew how to be a parent by the time that I was legally able to be a parent. I knew how to do all of it. I knew how to feed and burp a baby. I generally was the one with spit up milk all over me because the baby burped and obviously had overfed. And spit up a little bit of milk, which sometimes happens when you burp a baby. And I was the one who had to take showers because I smelt of milk and baby spit up. Whilst also dealing with a toxic household. So, me not wanting to have kids is purely my own thing of trauma, parentification, and mental health issues. All a combination put together in me knowing that I would not be an active parent. I would be a great aunt. I'd be a great godmother. I'd be amazing to babysit your children because then I could give them back at the end of the babysitting, but I would not be a good person to raise children. I'm getting a coil fitted to not have children, which lasts for 8 years. I'm not interested in becoming with child. I'm just not interested in it. And my reasons are personal. I have OCD. I also have anxiety and depression. I have panic disorder. And I also I have complex PTSD. I also have autism and ADHD, which all of which doesn't make everyone a bad parent. It doesn't. My mum's got most of those as well. And she, as I said, has always been an amazing mum. She did a fantastic job up until we went and lived with my biological sperm donor. I had a very, very fulfilling and happy childhood with her until I was like 8 when I moved in with my biological, and she moved away to go and take care of my grandparents because both of them were not doing well. And there was not enough room for me and my brother, so she moved away to go and take care of them. So I lived with my biological and my stepmother, and it was not good. It wasn't a good childhood. I went through a lot with them. There was a lot that happened. I'm not going to speak about everything. I will maybe one day talk about my experiences because a lot of them are universal experiences that I know a lot of people have, unfortunately, and they're not good. A lot of people who have all of these mental health issues and disabilities can very easily be parents. Amazing parents, fantastic parents. They use them as tools and protective shields for their children because they have these behavioral issues or they have these mental health issues, because autism is seen as a behavioral issue. And they're able to be amazing parents. They do a fantastic job. I'm just not one of those people who can, because I mean, I could run through all of them and give you a reason why all of those things for myself personally, for me, would not make me a good parent. My OCD would get in the way because all I'd be thinking is, if that child even gets like a smudge of something on me, I'd have to take a shower and scrub. And when you're a mum, you have no time because you have a baby who needs you and needs you to be there for them for the rest of their lives, but they need you. They are incapable of bathing or feeding or clothing themselves. They need you at all times. I couldn't do that. I would get so stuck into something and have a bunch of half-finished jobs that I'm doing, and I would drown out the baby crying for me for food or to have their nappy changed or whatever it is that they need in that moment. I would just not even be there. I also have a dissociative issue. I lose out on days. I forget days, or I don't have cognitive function on some days because I'm just not there. I'm just gone. I'm dissociated for a day and I don't remember anything. Or I get stuck into something and completely forget that I've got responsibilities, and the fact that my child is asleep in another room and she needs to be woken up from a nap, or he needs to be woken up from a nap, and I need to feed them, or I need to change them, or I need to whatever. Like, I personally, I can't see myself tearing myself away from something in order to go and take care of another human being who needs my help. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at doing that. I can barely take care of myself sometimes, and I'd be expected to take care of this tiny, beautiful human who needs my help. No, I can't do it. I can't. So my OCD would get in the way because a spot would have to appear on myself or this baby, and I'd immediately give it a full bath, or give them a full bath, and give myself a full-on shower and just scrub myself clean, because it would just have to be something, like a small thing, and I'd just lose it and just be anxious for the rest of the day until my partner comes home and can take the baby and take over duties, and I can then go for a shower, you know? My anxiety would get in the way because I'd be so anxiously staring at this child at all times, just making sure they're still breathing, they're still happy, they're still asleep, they're still laughing or smiling. If they cry, I'd feel like I'm doing something wrong. If they would get angry at me for whatever reason, I'd feel like I'm doing something wrong again, because they get older. Babies grow up, they get older, they have their own ideas of the world, and they have their own confidence in themselves that they build up because you have to encourage them in it. And I would just be stood anxious because my child is learning to walk and I don't want them to fall over and hurt themselves and start crying, because then I'll feel like I'm not protecting them well enough. There are so many anxieties when it comes to children that I know for a fact I could not handle. I have known to have a temper in the past. I'd be worried that I would be unable to stop myself from getting unreasonably mad at a child because they've asked a question too many times, or they keep asking why, or they keep yelling at me, or they have a tantrum about something completely ridiculous. I would not be able to keep my cool. I wouldn't ever hurt a child, but I know that I'd shout, and I know that that wouldn't be good because I grew up in the household with a shouter. My biological was a man who yelled at you before he spoke to you. He'd yell, scream at you in your face, and then you would run away from him, close your door, barricade yourself in, and he would eventually come upstairs, knock gently on the door and go, "Sup, champ, sorry that I yelled at you, but you were being like this." I don't want to be that parent that they're scared to come to because they're scared that I'm going to yell at them for making a mistake, or for dropping something or breaking something that they didn't mean to break, like an accident. I'd be worried that I would just not be good at conflict resolution with children because I'm not good at conflict resolution. If somebody yells at me, I will walk away and I will just ignore them or give them the silent treatment or whatever. And kids yell. They scream at you when you're not doing something that they want you to do and that they want to do, you know? They don't get their own way, they're going to scream a little bit. It's just how kids are because they haven't got the emotional control yet and they haven't learned to control their emotions. And it's perfectly natural, but it's also something that I don't think I'd be able to handle. I just want to make it very clear that I am not saying that people who have the same mental health issues I do and the same experiences that I do cannot be good parents. I have many friends who have in the past said, "Oh, I've got this and this, so I can't really be a parent." I'm like, yes, you can. What the fuck are you talking about? Of course you can be a parent. You'd be a perfectly good one. There's nothing wrong with you. You'd be a great parent. What do you mean? My point is that even if I didn't have any of the mental health issues or the experiences that I've had or anything like that, even if I didn't have all of these things going on in my head that would in my mind stop me from having children, and I am discouraged from having children because of it, even if I didn't have any of that, I still don't think I'd have children. I don't think I'd have kids even if I didn't have all these mental health issues, and because I like my life. Again, I'd happily babysit my friends' kids. Fuck yeah, dude. Love kids. I think they're great. I'd be a great aunt and a great godmother, as I've said. But a mum? I've done my time as a mum. I've done my time as that. I've been called mum before. I've taken care of kids before. I've done all of that. I am not looking to go back into that. You'd argue, and a lot of people have, a lot of people said this, they have argued that because of my experience as essentially a second parent to two kids, because of my experience, I'd actually be a great mum because I know all of it. And, well, I don't know everything. I'm not like an all-knowing parental figure. But I know how to take care of kids. I know how to love them. I know how to support them. I know how to teach them what is right from wrong. I know how to fulfill their basic needs. I know how to do all those things. I know I do. And there are times where I do think to myself, maybe I could do it, but like, I don't have that confidence in myself that I could be a parent. I don't have that want to be a parent. It has become a feeling of, I kind of have to. The only reason that I have had the thought that I have to is because, for various reasons, neither of my brothers are going to have kids. For just different reasons. They're both reasons are different. I'm not going to go into them. They're not my business. But it's not something that's like expected of you anymore. It's not like a thing where it's like, you must have children. Society isn't it's still fucked, don't get me wrong, and there is still the expectation, I guess, society-wise, to have children as a woman. It is less and less common for people to just turn around to you and go, you must bear children. There are still traditionalists out there, don't get me wrong, there are, that have had the idea of you must have kids passed down to them, whether it be from their parents or from their grandparents or both. I'm lucky enough to live in a family where that traditional ideal isn't something that's been pushed. I will happily have fur babies, have my kitty cats and my doggos and my partner. If one day I decide, again, that I would like to have kids, my most likely course of doing that is adoption. It would most likely be kids that are overlooked most of the time, because most people, and there's nothing wrong with this at all, but most people go for babies when they adopt, which is fine. But I remember having a very shitty upbringing when I was a kid. After my mum. My mum was awesome. It was my biological father and my stepmother that wasn't. But I remember having that shitty upbringing and having that shitty time. And I remember how bad it was. And I don't want that for other people, for other children. I don't want that for my kids. I don't want that to happen. And I'm scared that I will do that to them. You're allowed to change your mind, by the way, for having kids. You don't have to go through with it. If you're with someone whose deal breaker is kids, like having kids, and you don't want to have them, then that person is not yours. That person is for someone else. The person that you've been with is for someone else. But make sure you have that conversation before getting married. I am not married. No ring on my finger from my partner. We are still purely boyfriend and girlfriend. We have not become engaged. But you have to have this conversation early on and make sure that you are both on the same page. Whilst he would like to have kids, it's not a deal breaker for him. He doesn't mind if we don't. He'd love it if we did, but he is not bothered either way. He's with me for me. He's not with me for kids. And for that, I'm very grateful, first of all. But I have made it very clear to him that this is, yes, a change of mind. Because up until late last year, I was very, very certain about having kids. I was like, yeah, of course. I'd go through it. I'd go through pregnancy and giving birth and I'd have kids. But I feel like until I've healed more and have come to terms with some of the upbringing that I went through, because I've come to terms with things that happened 10 to 20 years ago. I've gotten over all of that pretty much. I've not gotten over it, but I have moved on. I have found other things to be traumatized by. But I think I need to heal a little bit more before I can even touch the subject of having children again. Because I can't see myself being a parent right now. And it's okay if I change my mind in a year or two, because I've figured stuff out about myself, or I have moved on from things. But some of these things are still a little bit too fresh to just move on from. I haven't moved on yet. I haven't let go of a lot of stuff. And it's okay that I haven't. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Also, the reason I didn't upload last week is because I had really bad psoriasis, which meant that I just could not move. I had no functioning ability to like walk or sit down for long periods of time. So I was laid down on my bed for the majority of last week, which meant that there was just no videos. So you're seeing this on Friday. Sorry, I have just been in a lot of pain the past few days and have not even streamed or recorded anything because I've just been dealing with back pain and leg pain and just been in a lot of pain. So dealing with that. Thank you for watching. If you want to join the coven, then the link to my Discord server is in the description if you want to join it. I also have a link to my Twitch, which I occasionally stream on, not very often. I'm still figuring out if I'm actually going to continue streaming or if I'm going to stop. Not sure yet. Still figuring that shit out. There should be more content coming to you guys. Maybe some collabs with some friends. Maybe if they watch this, if you want to collab, we can. But yes, thank you for watching. If you want to subscribe, the button's down there. If you want to give us a like, the button's down there as well. Thank you for coming to the Witch's Coven. Be good, support people, and I will see you in the next one.